last night, Schultzy, talking about being old, I was really upset. I was like, oh, it's 9:35. I'm not asleep yet. This is terrible.
Actually, ditto.
Yeah. I try to go to bed at like 9, as old as that sounds, but it's sometimes with basketball become an impossibility. So I stayed up for the Ducks and Beavers game. We'll talk about that as well. Oregon gets a win at USC, and Oregon State. What the hell is Oregon State on the road? Because statistically, they're just a completely different team. But I got stuck in nostalgia yesterday watching Pacers Knicks. It's just one of those, right? I know this sounds ridiculous to a lot of people now. And we talk about age and years. I mean, how long's it been since a Pacer Knick game had the juice? Late 90s?
Yeah, because when were the Pacers in the NBA Finals last? In the mid
2000? Yeah, 2000.
Exactly. There you go. Early 2000. 2000, yeah.
Yeah, against the Lakers. That was the year Portland should have gone to the final. Like that's really like, and the Pacers had some good teams, but not some great teams along the way. But I got stuck watching Jalen Brunson tear apart the Indiana Pacers yesterday, and I'm watching this as if I'm like 12 years old, feeling Reggie Miller nostalgia. Of all the matchups in sports that could get me, I didn't think I cared about Knicks Pacers. And then I had it on my screen visually, and I was like, oh, yeah, I remember caring about this game a long time ago.
Latrell Sprewell, Allen Houston.
Oh,
back
Allen
in the day.
Houston, yes. Larry Johnson.
Good old bald, short Jeff Van Gundy, not
Rick
Stan.
Smits.
Oh, my God. Yeah, we're going back.
Dale Davis.
Dale. I love that.
Oh, Austin Crozier.
And then, after Dale, Jermaine O'Neal, too. Because they continued into the 2000s. Those Knicks Pacers games, even in 04-05, were pretty good.
Man, I don't know why, but I got stuck in nostalgia last night with Knicks and Pacers. The Knicks are actually good this year. I like to randomly throw out basketball tidbits to people who hate basketball or don't follow it. The Knicks are good this year. Legitimately a good team.
Jalen Brunson's kicking butt. That contract seems to be paying off for them, which initially people laughed at, but he's producing like a star player in the NBA.
I thought that was odd that people reacted that way to him getting a contract. I'm like, did you watch the Mavericks? If anything, I'd be laughing at the Mavericks. What are the Mavericks doing there?
Just letting him go. I mean, they basically traded him for Kyrie, essentially, without doing so.
Yeah, well, I think if you gave him the choice, they'd take Brunson. Brunson's physically stronger. He's tougher.
Cares more.
Him and Luka worked really well together, and now he's running the show in New York. Josh Hart is one of his running mates. They're an interesting team come deadline, Schultz. The Knicks, if they can add the right piece, it's a team to watch for.
Mm-hmm.
They're in the top 3 in the East right now. They're not very far behind the Milwaukee Bucks, who just lost in Portland. So the Eastern Conference race is interesting. The Knicks, I said this a couple years ago when they won that first, or that, who did they face? Trae Young and the Hawks. Remember, they won the one playoff game?
Oh, yeah.
And they were seen filing out onto the street, chanting and going crazy and shutting traffic down. At that point, I changed the opinion, Schultz. I want the Knicks to be relevant.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good to have some psychos on the East Coast care a lot and then have their hearts broken. I want the Knicks to be good. And they are this year.
Nobody really mentions their acquisition over the offseason of Dante DiVincenzo either. I feel like
very underrated.
Exactly. I mean, he kind of exploded last year in Golden State, and whatever it is,
they got him for less than the mid-level.
Oh, that's when you think about the value in today's NBA.
We gave Gary Payton II the mid-level. He played like 10 games and then said, I want to go back to Golden State. And they got Dante DiVincenzo, White Dante, for less than the mid-level.
And when you think about that, he's making less than the mid-level, just comparative value to NBA scoring leaders right now, averaging 25, 28 a game. He's averaging half that, almost 12 and a half a game. So theoretically, he should be making $20 million, not 4 or 6.
Right.
So this was a sneaky good play by New York, and it really shored up their guard play and allowed Jalen Brunson to have somebody that it just didn't seem like he worked as well with the roster last year. Their younger guys like Toppin kind of got rid of them and found some guys that work in their system.
They got tougher.
That's true. Yeah.
Tougher guys is it's a Tibbs thing, right? It's the physicality, it's defense, it's not backing down. Joel Embiid has a torn meniscus in his knee. That was really unfortunate to read about yesterday. Kuminga, he shouldn't have been. I thought he was not faking it, but I thought he was resting for the Portland game just to play TNT. No, his knee really is still messed up, but he played on the Golden State game on TNT, and Kuminga fell on his knee, and now he has a torn meniscus. We don't know the timeline. Sixers got a win last night. Maxey was amazing, but Embiid's out, so I think you kind of scratch them off the old list of teams. I don't think they were going to win the East anyway, but not good news. The trade deadline is going to be fascinating to see what teams are either looming in the background or teams that are near the top of their conference. The West, for example, is kind of a jumbled mess. Minnesota and OKC are sitting at the top. I don't know how many people truly trust them to go win the Western Conference. I think most people would say, Minnesota can be weird offensively. Gobert's been great defensively. Oklahoma City's fun, but Chet's struggling right now, and, no real experience come postseason conversation. I still think it's Denver in the West. Like, the Clippers might be right there with them, but I don't know if they'll stay healthy the whole way through.
Obvious MVP in Jokic again.
It certainly appears that. I think him, Giannis, I think that's kind of what you're looking at right now. Milwaukee's been weird despite being a 2 seed. So just the landscape of the league as we get closer and closer to the deadline, it's interesting to see how many teams are going to get desperate, how many teams are going to look to just upgrade slightly, and how many teams are going to try to look to offload contracts because they're just not good teams. They're not competing.
You kind of wonder if Boston at the top of the East really feels like they need to upgrade as compared to, maybe somebody in the 6 or 7 spot like Miami. They probably need a lot better point guard play.
Miami's in a real tailspin right now.
Yeah. I think, was it them that just pulled off the deal with Charlotte?
Yeah, they got Terry Rozier, Scary Terry. Yeah.
There you go.
They're 1-6. They're 1-6 with him.
Oh, God. So flipping Kyle Lowry for him didn't quite work out for them. So maybe they need to make another move. That's kind of it. We were just talking yesterday. Go listen on the podcast so you can get them anywhere. But we were talking yesterday about how there's kind of a seems like a pause in the market because the assets aren't necessarily there for all these teams. The Blazers are going to be most likely, at least what we're hearing, holding on to Malcolm Brogdon.
The draft sucks, so the draft pick stuff doesn't really resonate with a lot of people right now.
But then when you think about players in return, there's really no good young talent that's going to be on the move. Toronto's not giving up a Scotty Barnes.
Yeah.
There's really no reason for Charlotte to give up on a Brandon Miller. Obviously, I only bring that up because those are the scenarios along with draft picks that you see happening in deals at the trade deadline. So I bet we don't see much movement, but there's got to be a couple of teams, especially in the East, that need something.
You know what team in the East I think needs Malcolm Brogdon?
Other than Miami, who?
Not Miami. It is a Florida team, though, and they're in the play-in. They're a nice little young team. I think they could use some seasoning in the veteran department.
I do like Orlando.
The Orlando Magic.
Yeah.
I think the Orlando Magic could benefit greatly from having a Malcolm Brogdon. Brog seems like a good locker room guy. Go in there. He's on a young team now, but you get to go to a more competing young team that's, star ready. Paolo Banchero is an all-star now.
Well, I know somebody a little bit older with the vet experience over Jalen Suggs at the point guard position would absolutely help them.
I don't know how many people do this, but I absolutely do as a Blazer fan. I see young players that come in that I just really like, and I just get pissed when I watch that they become good. Like Paolo Banchero for me in that draft, that was the Chet Holmgren, Jabari Smith draft. I remember we talked about that because Portland wasn't very good, so it's like, where was the ping pong balls going to land? God, I wanted Paolo Banchero. So I wanted him in the worst way. We were one number away from Wemby. We were, one bad draw of the lottery ball away from a Paolo Banchero. It just sucks when you get so close to having that caliber of player. But Orlando got him, and so I think they're a sneaky team waiting in the trade deadline waters. The other one for the opposite reason, Atlanta. Atlanta is the 10 seed right now. Atlanta sucks. And they don't look like they like playing together. They've got some parts, man. DeJounte Murray might be on the way out, even though they traded 3 first-round picks for him. Maybe they move a DeAndre Hunter. Atlanta's a weird team. That's another team I could see going the opposite way of Orlando, being more sellers, not so much buyers at the deadline.
I love DeJounte Murray. Watching him.
Do you?
Play, oh God, yeah. I would if I were a GM. I'd trade for him in a second. He's kind of a must-have if you have a hole at the guard position for me in the NBA right now. Perfect age. He's producing 20 plus a game. Mm-hmm. He shoots well. He assists. There's really nothing. I've been betting on him a lot lately, like overs on 3 points. He hasn't necessarily hit those lately, but he fills up the stat sheet. Murray does.